Hi, welcome. So I'm Anup Kurup. This is the second um, webinar in a series, Create Your Lead Generation System series. Everybody wants leads, but nobody wants to put in the work to do to generate leads because it is difficult. And for a lack of a better word, many a times it feels very mysterious. Leads are getting generated, and how does it happen? It is not mysterious. There is no black magic or super secret stuff happening here. It's just a matter of laying down the right foundations and then building on those foundations one at a time and ensuring that when you are building on the foundations, the building doesn't shake. So your solid foundation is required in terms of thinking about
Yes.
who's the right client and uh, how to reach them and what you're selling to them, how you are telling them that this is what you sell to them. Right? Those are the things which are required. Once your foundation is ready, then there are a lot of tactics you can use. Facebook, you can use uh, Google, you can use SEO, you can use LinkedIn, you can use ads, and you can use webinars, and you can use content marketing, and n number of other uh, tactics are available through which you can generate leads. But we are not talking about that right now. We will get to that. We are talking about the system creation, which means you have to lay down the foundation. So the first step in lead generation is knowing who is your client, and let's figure that out today. I spoke about it last time also. I mean, just a quick introduction. I'm Anup Kurup. I've been doing this for about 20 years. I was a researcher and I learned how to think differently as a researcher, and I worked in a research organization too after that. Then I started a company in intellectual property rights, which is a knowledge business. And after that was sold off, I kind of became a marketing specialist for a lot of my clients. And I've been doing this for close to 10 years as a marketing specialist. And my focus is on knowledge and services business. So it's very unique, very specifically targeted. There are challenges if you are a knowledge service entrepreneur, in the sense if you are selling knowledge services, which means services basically which you do on a computer. Think of knowledge services as services that can be delivered through a computer, right? I mean, so maybe you're a management consultant, maybe you're a coach, maybe you are intellectual property rights person, maybe you are a lawyer. Nowadays, I mean, there are a lot of type of lawyers, but those who don't go to court actively. Then maybe you are a marketer, digital marketer. Maybe you are doing one of the other exotic services like accountancy for that matter, and things that you pretty much do on a computer. You don't have to be in front of the client, you don't have to sit, or the client doesn't have to come to you. Those are broadly knowledge services which runs because of your expertise. The problem in selling knowledge services is well understood. That is, one is it's intangible, the results are not known. Unlike you getting a haircut, which is also a service, you know how you look before and after. But in a knowledge services, many a times the before and after state has to be looked at very carefully. Okay, let us say that you are a digital marketer, right? What do? You, let us say you create nice images for social media. Once you deliver that, what is the tangible output? People don't understand. Okay, you have delivered images or you have delivered a social media post, but how does that impact my business? It's usually not directly correlated. There's some issues in between, and that's what boggles the mind. And people say, okay, I don't know what it did for me. Positioning. Positioning is another problem wherein people are trying to buy certain outcomes, but you are selling certain expertise. You are saying, I am an expert at creating LinkedIn posts. They are not looking for LinkedIn posts. They are trying to buy popularity or thought leadership, or they are trying to purchase visibility for your brand, things like that. I mean, the words are different. The intent and what the expectation is setting is also very different. Most people, as I said, tend to sell expertise, and the problem with selling expertise is the client doesn't care. It does not mean that the client doesn't respect your PhDs and doctorates and 30, 40 years of experience. It's not that. It does not matter for their business, for the outcome they are looking for. They are looking for a certain outcome, and you go and say, okay, I have 50 certificates, I have 200 different testimonials. All good. They are trust builders, but that is not solving the problem. You have to pitch yourself as a problem solver rather than as an expert at something. Right? So So there's a slight nuance here. One is, if I want to get in the door, if I want to meet a client or if I want to talk to a client, they need to realize that I can solve the problem for them. Then they need to trust me. Then I can show, okay, I have these certificates, qualifications, testimonials, etc. But that's step two, step three, in fact, right? So do not start your lead generation process with your expertise. That doesn't work. You have to start it with solution. You have to start it with the right expectation setting. Then comparison. Okay, why you? Why not your competition? Because, as I said, your services are intangible. They cannot touch or feel it. Then they compare you with somebody else. And if your positioning is wrong, then they are going to compare you, an apple, with a tomato, and say both of you are similar and that person charges this much, etc. Right? Because there's nothing to compare, they compare with what is there in their head. Trust is another factor. Value versus price. Many people don't understand the value of what you're offering, so they compare the value with the price, which also, on the flip side, price is an indicator of value. You price it very low, they say, okay, it's a cheap service, it's fine, it doesn't matter. I can, it's a commodity service, I can go and find another person in the market. But if you value it, price it too high, and they go out in the market and say that, everybody else who offers the service is here and you're here, right? Therefore, something is wrong. I think my expectations are not understood clearly. Therefore, there's a mismatch. So yeah, it can work for you, against you, and there are other behavioral factors on that. We also talked about Tom framework last week. Tom is target audience, offer, message, and today we are going to talk about T, target audience. So the Tom framework is my way of simplifying, how to think about marketing, your marketing mindset itself. So T is to understand the audience, your competition, market, persona, cultural subtext, everything about the person you're trying to sell into, the markets you're trying to sell into. We will not be able to cover everything today. The market and competition we will reserve for the next week, because it's a fairly long topic, and how to stand apart from the market, how to position yourself, is something which is for a little more involved. We'll do that next week, the next episode of this. Today we'll focus on what is a TG, what is a target audience. We'll try to understand what's a persona, why there's always a fight, client versus you. There's you're knocking against each other, and something called as JBTD, what that is. So it's going to be fun. So hold on. Target audience. Now you might have heard this term TG, target group, target audience, persona, target market, where you serve. TAM, SOM, SAM, and all these other acronyms are there. Make it simple. You want to sell to somebody. We all know we want to sell to somebody. Now, if you want to sell to somebody, what are you selling? What are you selling, and whom are you selling to is usually the thinking. Reverse it and say, what problem am I solving? For whom am I solving? So there are two ways to think about it: a niche or a community. People confuse between the two. A niche usually is a market, a community, or a subset of a community plus a problem. A community, on the other hand, is a common trait or a set of people. Now, for example, left-handed guitar players are a community of people. Now, let's say you're a musician and you're a left-handed musician or left-handed guitar player or a violinist or something like that, and you go and become part of this community, and you have a network of people, 1,000, 10,000 people who follow you, you follow them, there's interaction, etc. Now, within that community, you sell various things. You may be selling specialized equipment, specialized grips, specialized guitars itself, the stringing services, things like that, right? So or even training material for that matter. If you are selling things into that community, that is the universe within which you operate. That's a community. And within that community, you can say, I can solve problems for a left-handed guitar player. I'm an expert at that. That's great. And people will approach you and you have to sell various things. You have to figure out what you have to sell. Think of it as like a supermarket where only the left-handed guitar players come in, and you sell multiple things. That's one way of doing it. There's nothing wrong in that. You have a lot of things you're solving for. But that requires a lot of time. You have to establish yourself as an expert inside the community, which takes effort. The other way of thinking that is, okay, left-handed guitar players or left-handed people. It's a broader area, left-handed, right? It's people who use left. That's about 10% of the population. Within that also, you can say subset of people who use computer mouse. Now there's a problem. if you use computer mouse, most computer mouse are now the mices are made for left or right. I mean, they have mices which can be configured. But ergonomic mouses, which kind of reduces the wrist pain, etc., if you're left-handed, are very few. Very few companies make them. And then the gel pad, so that there's a pad, you can keep your wrist on it and move the mouse around and not have any wrist pain. That's even less, right? So there's a subset of the market there, and you are designing a solution for those people. So left-handed mouse users and a soft gel pad for that particular set of users, because the anatomy of the wrist changes, right and left. There are bumps. The bumps are in different places, right? So because of that, you are going to do something specialized and sell, and you can sell it at slightly higher price. See, you're solving a problem for a set of people. You're solving a problem. That's a niche within that which you're selling. Now, and again, the definitions vary slightly based on who you ask, but just think of one as problem for a set of people, another just a set of people, right, who you gel with or you can be part of. It can also be people who go to the same church or the temple, or a set of people who live in a certain area, or it could be age. But it is something which is accessible, which you can access. It cannot be something everybody who has hair on their head cannot be a community of people. That's very, very large, narrowed down, right? Something which is easily accessible. So that's a starting point. But you can make it much, much, much narrower, or much, much more easier to understand. For example, this. What is this? Is this a niche or a community? Service business founder with 10 plus years of experience, 10 headcount company based in Bangalore, and dependent on referrals to get clients. Actually, a niche. So the first is a community of people. Service business founders with X years of experience based in Bangalore is a community of people. So if you can reach all these people, you can form a community, a group, and do multiple things with them. But within that set, there are people who are still very, very much dependent on referrals to get clients, and you have a solution for them. Then that is a niche you are going to operate in. Okay. So it can get weirdly specific. For example, there's a person who only helps people who are going to, in the US, who helps people who apply for government grants. So US government gives out a lot of research grants, and this person helps people write those research grants. There's a specific format, there's a specific way of writing it so that it goes through the system. And this person knows how to make those grants go through the system. It's a very, very specific problem that he's solving. He himself is an expert at that. But that's a very, very niche, right? That's such a narrow space to be in. You need to have very, very big, very good expertise in that, and you need to understand how people approach that problem and how you have to solve it, etc. So some secret knowledge is there, which and some amount of years of expertise is there that allows you to do that better. There's a very, very cliched thing called persona in marketing. I personally don't like persona as a, a term or a definition. If you see what is a persona, this is persona. What I've showed you is persona. Persona is similar to mannequin. It's a rough sketch of what your clients are, who they are, where they go, what their behavior is, what their fears, etc. Persona has its own place. I'm not saying that don't use personas at all. Personas are good mannequins. They're imaginary clients. They're not real clients. So if you see the mannequins, are they the same, the mannequins? No, they are different actually, right? But with this, you cannot describe a person, right? A mannequin in a cold country and during the peak of winter, they have certain behaviors. We agreed, but that is describing a very, very vast set of the audience usually. So persona is a good exercise to sketch out who your target audience looks like, or not just looks like, but how they behave, what their fears and dreams and problem statements are. The issue with building personas, and I'll repeat it again, the issue with building personas is it's biased. Typically, if you are a business owner selling pencils, you will start looking for people who want pencils, and then you sketch an ideal profile saying these are the people who buy it from me. But if you step outside and ask a third party to build it for you, they'll come up with a slightly different or completely different persona. So your biases play into, how you create a persona. Ideally speaking, personas should be created after you go into the market, talk to 100 people, then you can create a persona. Today, people use ChatGPT to create a persona. That is imaginary completely. There's nothing realistic about it, but it gives you a direction. That's all it is, right? So these are not real people. These are mannequins on which some clothes are displayed. So the customer go walking by the window or inside the shop sees how a person would look like in the three dimensions when they wear this dress. Then they go and try it out because it may not fit them correctly and all that. Okay. So what they buy versus what you sell, there are two different things. You need to understand that. You are selling services and thereby outcomes. You market outcomes, but they want their dreams fulfilled. See, there's a problem here. And the problem starts with number one, who buys from you and what they imagine they will get. There's a lot of communication problem. Communication problem number one, you are selling something to people, assuming they want to buy your service. Not true. They want to buy a solution. Now, this term solution has its own problem, so I use the term outcome. I am not going to a medical checkup every year so that the doctor can sell me more pills. I am going to a medical checkup every year to ensure that I'm a healthy person. Certificate from the doctor. If I find problems, next time I will hesitate to go. Right? I am going to a lawyer to draft a contract, right? And I want a contract. I don't want a list of items that the lawyer is going to send to me and say that, hey, Anup, fill this in. No, I don't want to do the homework. I will tell you what is to be done, and please send me the contract. And in my mind, I have already made up that the contract is so foolproof that anybody else trying to, let's say the client can get around it, I will not get into trouble. All those expectations. The expectations are there around even something simple like a contract. Website. If I don't know why websites are created, then I want all the colors and fonts and my degrees and my photos and my family's photos inside the website. If I am somebody who understands, why websites are built, then I want the websites to bring me more clients. Clients should see it and fill a form and say, okay, you know what, let's talk. So the expectation people have from a website varies. So you have to have the right expectation set and then build out a website. Right? So again, this thing is all about setting the right expectations, understanding the client's mindset. Now, I've already told you that personas don't work well. What you sell may not work well. Then how do you figure out what to sell? Number one. Number two, how do you understand what the customer's mindset is like? So there is something called as jobs to be done. Jobs to be done is a theory. It is a theoretical framework. Um, 1985. I mean, there's a person called Tony Ulrich who came up with this entire theory, and it became famous because this was used in a book called The Innovator's Dilemma, you know? And that's how it became very popular. This entire thing. So, jobs to be done is a better way of thinking about what the customers want. What does that mean? So, when you think about jobs to be done, everything is hired. People purchase things, but everything is hired. Think about it. Let's say you purchase a drill, right? Do you think about the drill throughout the day? Are you thinking about it constantly? Doubtful. You think of the drill when you have to drill a hole. If you're not a full-time user of a drill, if you are not into machining, carpentry, and things like that, you may think of a drill when you want to drill a hole in a wall to put a nail or drill a hole somewhere. Right? That's momentary, right? 5 minutes you're thinking of using that tool and keeping it back in your shed or something like that. Now, are you thinking of that? You own it, but you don't think of it. You hire it momentarily. Now, people want solutions. What do I mean by people want solution? Let me take this analogy further. You want to hang your family photos on the wall. What are the options available to you? Number one, buy a drill a hole, put the photo. Number two, hire a carpenter. Number three, borrow the drill from a neighbor. Number four, borrow the neighbor itself. Come over, we'll have a cup of tea or mug of beer and do this home project, right? Now, okay, great. But what is it that you want? Do you want to drill holes or do you want to hang a photo? You want to hang a photo. Now, if you want to hang, I'm a client, right? I want to hang a photo. I have so many options. There's a fifth option now available. I can also use that super nano tape and all that. It sticks, it can hold 5 kg weight and whatnot, right? I don't have to drill holes even. So, what am I trying to get done? See, if I do it myself, the functional requirement remains the same. Every option that I have, the functional requirement is I should hang my family portrait. That's the requirement I have. The emotional requirement there is I see my family happy photos or my family various experiences we had on a wall whenever I walk by, right? It's an emotional, there's an emotional reason for that. The social impact of this is interesting. This is where things shift, whether you're going to do it, bring a neighbor and do it, hire a carpenter and do it, or doing it yourself. Having the photos displayed itself is a social thing because the photos contain you taking photos in front of Eiffel Tower and in cherry blossom fruit tree in Japan, or that the Mount uh, I forgot, the Fukushima, I think, right? And or else it could be you standing next to some statues and various places, various things, various adventures, right? So the photo itself is a social status or statement. Because they are there, that is enough. Another could be that whenever the guests come in or somebody sees those photos, you say, I drill the hole, I put it up, I really spent some time putting. So it's like a you were useful in doing that, right? There's a social impact. The third way of thinking that is camaraderie, right? Your neighbor came up and you both did a weekend project, or you did it with your family itself, and that there's a emotional bonding. And whenever somebody comes in, you say, you know what, we did it together. And we did not hire anybody. We did it together. There was a lot of it. We had a lot of fun doing it. This is so. There are three vertices or three aspects to any job. You think it is not there? Think about it again. Right? Okay, let's say your boss or you're the boss. You give the job to an employee. Hey, you know what? Go and get this contract drafted with the lawyer. Now, what is the employee thinking? Yeah, is there functional, emotional, social in that also? Yes, the functional job is to get the contract drafted. And depending on what type of organization you run, the emotion can vary from I should not get fired for it, fear, to I want to impress my boss, you know, and or my colleague should say good job, social acceptance validation. That is the social part of it, right? Now, the social part can also vary based on what type of organization you are running. I don't want to be rebooked in public saying that, boss is scolding me, or I don't want a future implication of this on me, which is, protect yourself type of thing. Defensive decision making, it is called DDM. Or it could be, if it's positive that I should be praised for this, publicly praised for this, or, I should be recognized for my work. Things like this. I'm just taking contract. It could be something bigger also, right? So, depending on the culture of the organization, the emotional and the social aspect can vary. Functional is the same. And that is why people keep saying, hire for attitude and all that. But reverse is also true. Hire for attitude, but what kind of environment are you giving your employees? Because if the emotional and social aspect of the employment is not met, they will leave or they will mess up. Right? So when you think of your client's requirement from jobs to be done perspective, suddenly a new world opens up. We spoke about it last time. I gave an example of people asking for nice social media images. It is purely a social status game many a times. I want to send this on my WhatsApp group. It's a social status game and emotional satisfaction from others, validation saying, oh, wow, amazing image. The functional aspect is I should be visible. Visibility is the least functional aspect here. I mean, just about there. But there's more importance for the social aspect. Buying a watch. Why buy a Rolex and not a Casio or a Titan or something like that? Do you see time better if it is a $500,000 watch versus a $20 watch? Not really. It's the same type keeping, right? I mean, Swiss engineering versus electronics, whatever it is. It's a social symbol. Social and emotional. Social more because it's a status symbol. Yes, I can afford a watch like this. I can wear this watch and go around and not be robbed. Emotional because others' validation. Wow, amazing watch, etc. You feel pride. Pride is an emotion. Functional is looking at the time, right? But that's least important. So every product, every service has all these three aspects attached, and there are two more sub aspects, but that's not important for this discussion. All three aspects are covered in every product or service. People hire products and services. They don't buy them necessarily in the sense, at least in their mind, right? There was a very beautiful example of a restaurant where people would end up in the restaurant in the midday. Like there were two scenarios. Scenario number one at 7 a.m. in the morning. They're rushing into the restaurant, buying a thick smoothie, shake, and going away. And when the team, this management consulting team went in to figure out why is this happening, the phenomena and all that, and they realized the morning rush is from people who have missed their or skipped their breakfast or did not have the time to buy or make it. They are on a commute. They are going to office, so they come here, get the thick smoothie, which the reason a thick smoothie, it's covered first of all, right? So it will not spill. It can be consumed with one hand. So you have a straw and you can consume it. And it's not greasy like a donut or something like that. So your hands are not sticky if you're driving, for example, or if you're hanging on a metro, your hands are free. One hand is free, it's not sticky and all that. The spillage chances are less with this. And it's not very filling. The smoothie is not going to fill you up so much that you will skip lunch, right? So it's like a snacky breakfast kind of a thing. Now, when the restaurant realized this, they started making more nutritious smoothie with thicker straws, so it's easier to drink, and they had a whole campaign around it, and they bumped up the entire sales of it. Obviously, right? I mean, you're selling something to the customer's functional, emotional, social needs. I don't want to get my dress dirty. I want to eat something healthy. I don't want to eat too much, and I want to carry it in one hand. Right? That's a if you think about it. At the same time, they also saw that mothers with little kids came in around 11 o'clockish. What is this 11 o'clockish business? That's the time most kindergarten or play schools, kind of let the kid go. So mothers are collecting their kids and they're going home, and the kid insists on having something. They're hungry and all that, and they come in and take a smaller this smoothie because it's healthier than eating junk food. But at the same time, the crowd was not very didn't seem very satisfied. What they realized is mothers want to give the kid a smaller quantity so that they don't skip lunch. At the same time, they don't spill it and it's easier for them to consume and all that. So they started making smoothies which are little diluted. Diluted in the sense it's thinner, so it's easier to suck through that straw and stuff like that, right? And they have started making it different colors, different fruit combinations. So it's fun. It's more colorful for the kids, and they are happy having one. So again, what's a functional, emotional, social need there? It's a mother's need to feed the kid, right? The kid is not the purchaser there. Yes, they need to enjoy it. Emotional need is satisfaction of the kid and the mother's, ability to feel that yes, the kid is not hungry. Social need is also there when a lot of parents are there with their kids. They tend to intermingle and have a chat, and so there's a pause in the day to interact with others. So jobs to be done is a very, very powerful system and method to look at what you're selling and what is being bought and who's buying. And it opens up a lot of doors. In fact, I got an insight from the jobs to be done function when I was talking to a group of people today before this event. And I realized something that I am selling is more suitable for people who want to become experts rather than business owners. And that was a very big, eye opener for me. This was the lens, at the end of the day, which was applied. Let's get into a case study now. If it's You'll see this whole thing, in practice how this looks like. So it's a jewelry designer. This is a client. Is a I can say a friend, acquaintance, who very very capable lady who left her corporate job in IT after 15 years of working there, and did a course in jewelry designing and all that. And she's a jewelry designer. So the challenge number one was, how do you stand out in a crowd of jewelers and jewelry designers? Very difficult, right? How do you find clients that will trust you? Jewelry is expensive. How do you find clients that will trust you without opening a big shop and all that? And challenge number three got solved, and there was a surprising TG that came out of it. So let's look into this. This is her positioning problem, which we solved first. So what do jewelry designers usually do? They will come to you, okay, you have a jewel, pick any design that we have, we'll build it for you, or we will come up with a custom design for you, etc., etc. Right? But she saw a niche, and it was when her mother was keeping all her old jewelry back into the bank locker and not using them at all for any of the functions. She asked, "Why do you do that?" Right? And she also saw her own behavior, that her wedding jewelry, all that is in a bank locker and not being used. And they are not being sold or melted and remade and all that. The reason is, this is an emotional attachment. This is gifted by somebody, this is given by somebody. I cannot sell it. I want to keep it for emotional reasons. I want to keep this jewelry. At the same time, it's older design. It's 10-year, 15-year, 20-year, 30-year old jewelry, which doesn't go with the contemporary style. So I cannot wear it anywhere. These are heavy designs and all that. So for her mother, what she did is she redesigned her mother's jewelries first. And by the way, these are client jewelry, not her mother's jewelry. Second, she redesigned her jewelry, and that kind of a niche positioning came up. Jewelry designer to jewelry redesigner. That naming kind of. And so the niche again is redesign old jewelry kept in your bank locker without melting. So it's the same thing, same jewel, same gold, same silver, water, diamonds, etc. But it is put in a different structure completely, design completely. So the sentiments are intact and all that. So it's a very narrow market. So certain ladies of certain age, etc., have to be targeted. And it's not a cheap service either. It costs a little bit of money. So you needed to have trust, enough trust for people to send the jewelry to you through courier sometimes, and that you will return it without stealing anything, etc. Very tough market to crack, but thankfully she has a good network and family network, etc. So she could start doing this. So this is where we are, right? I mean, just think of it. I mean, the easiest TG to build here is mom's friends, relatives, and referrals. That's how it started. But it's not very sustainable if you think about it. If I am going to ask people to send their 10 lakh, 20 lakh rupees Indian money, right? Expensive jewelry, diamond, gold jewelry, and I will work on it and send it back to you, there are a lot of chances of theft and misplacement and ever so many other issues. And it was not a very uh, regular business also. I mean, one person would hear about it, they will send it. It's not like people have infinite amount of jewelry, right? I mean, there's a limited amount. You have done the work, now you have to find the next client. It became difficult, and the story has gone on for 6, 7 years now. It took that long. Just imagine. Now let's think about it. Who is the ideal TG for it? Remember the positioning, jewelry redesigner. That positioning remains, but remember the tagline, who the niche, don't melt, but redesign. You don't keep it in the bank locker. We will use it and we will redesign it. Right? The sentimental value was the emotional value was what was being emphasized. There are three pillars: functional, emotional, social. So if you're emphasizing emotional value, then the functional value is also there, and the social value is there, but they are diminished. They are secondary priority, which is the first priority, emotional. What happens if you give the functional value a higher priority? Wearing jewelry is the higher priority, right? So it has to be contemporary always. Who needs that? See, I'm thinking from the job should be done theory perspective now. I'm going to emphasize on the functional aspect, which is wearing contemporary jewelry. Who needs that? Then the social status and emotional. I'm deprioritizing. So I'll come back with the answer a little later. But we just think about it. Who needs that? Who could be the ideal TG for this? By the way, my friend has found the ideal TG and she's doing good business. She's doing enough of a business that she's opening her own studio and hiring people to do the work. So much work is coming her way. So who's the ideal TG? Just think about it. That's pretty much it, right? I mean, that's what we wanted to talk about today.